right? So why is Prabhupada saying the external objects are invisible? So I just want to explain all this because I think Sunday's class was maybe, I might have presumed familiarity of some of the concepts, and maybe I just went a little too fast on Sunday, so I just want to stop and clarify some of the concepts from Sunday. So let's start from the basics. What do we think is the difference between matter and consciousness? I want to start right from the basics, because what happened, I felt on Sunday, was I was presuming familiarity and I just moved too fast. And then when I was driving back home, I thought, I shouldn't do that. I'm presuming that it's already familiar. I should go a little step by step. So I just want to understand, what is the difference? Let's go back right to the basics. What's the difference between matter and consciousness? Yeah. Yeah, and matter? Oh, very good. Very good. Fantastic. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. Yes, and what's the problem with matter? Not problem, but what's the difference? Yeah, very good. Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, that's a very good start. So let me explore and expand a little bit. So the difference between matter and consciousness is that matter is what's called deterministic. For example, if I establish a slant, slopey table here, a slant, slopey, like sliding, what do you call that? The slide. And I put an object of ball that rolls down, and if I know exactly the gravitational conditional, the wind effects, and if I know the surface of this floor, and I can mathematically calculate the gravity and the forces of nature and the weight of the ball, I should be able to determine exactly where the ball will stop, at least on ballpark. So, which is the reason, the problem with the difference between the matter and consciousness is that matter is deterministic. You are able to determine where it's going, at least kind of a ballpark approximately, if not exactly. Consciousness is a completely different ontology. The consciousness has free will. Consciousness cannot be determined. Like, for example, you could choose, I could not deterministically say that at 20 past 8 you will still be, Meera will still be here. She can make a free choice, and she can establish her focus on establish her intention and move out of here. Or I could still find her seated here. So matter is deterministic. You should be able to determine where it will be directed and at some stage where it will end. But consciousness, I cannot determine in the same way I would do it to physical matter. Meera could be here, Meera could be not here after 20 past 8. You could be here, you could not be here. Or we could be doing, I don't know, dinner at some vegan Korean restaurant or something at 8 o'clock tonight. Or you might call me and say, Prabhu, you suck, I don't want to have dinner. So you have a free will, you have an intentionality driving you. But consciousness, the matter is deterministic. So what this kind of verses, what this kind of Bhagavatam shlokas are trying to establish is that consciousness is different to matter, and consciousness has a completely different role to play in space. So there's 2 times the space has been used in this purport and verses. So when we are operating in space, matter can work in some sort of deterministic way, but consciousness is always operating in what's called in science in a quantum way. Why do they call it quantum? Because your intentions and free will are always varying your activities. So that's why they use the word called quantum. So that's the reason when quantum physics came, it threw the spanner in the wheel, because they started to see that the particles are becoming waves and waves are becoming particles based on the intention of the observer. And they thought, God, what is going on here? So just exactly when physicists and scientists had figured out that everything is deterministic, the quantum mechanics somewhere early 20th century came and it completely destroyed the current ethos that no. Based on your intentionality, based on your free will, things are actually, even the particles are becoming waves and waves are becoming particles. It's called spooky action of quantum physics. It's called spooky action of quantum physics. You ever heard of this? It's called spooky action. I never spoke with you before? Ah, what a shame. Okay, I'll have to tell you what that is. So spooky action means based on the intention of the observer, the matter is operating actually, the ontology of the matter is varying. You might think, oh, matter is hard, or you might think, okay, this is... But the ontology, the nature of existence of matter is varying based on the observer. Particles becomes atoms, atoms becomes waves, waves become particles. So this threw a spanner in the wheel. So this part of Bhagavatam that we are reading now is establishing that eventually the matter gradually is being utilized, the space, the wind, the fire, the water, the land. What's happening based on your intentions, based on your free will, you are able to vary that. Is this liberating? Is this liberating to know? Fantastic. Very good. That's what yogis were. With the intention of it, with their intention, with the free will, with their yogic power, with the sonic technology, they are able to manipulate matter. And that happens every day in our lives. We just have to notice. That happens every day. Do you want me to give you an example that will completely like, wow, you think that's wacko? There is this, one of our ISKCON scientists, his name is Akhandati Prabhu. I work as an kind of an assistant for him, some of his work that he's doing. So 8 years ago, he took a bowl of rice here and he put a bowl of rice in other, like a rice in one bowl and a rice in another bowl, 2 bowls of rice. So he goes to this one bowl of rice. This is actually happened. I'm not giving you some, I can make you meet him and I can show you that experiment. So he goes to this bowl of rice and he throws his curses at it, all this anger that he had on his, telephone bills that went wrong and the electricity power problems and any problem that was in his life. The call center operator gave him the bad day. He took it on this rice. He said, "You damn thing, you are disgusting. I hate you. I don't want to see your face. Just looking at you makes my nerves melt." He just threw all the anger at this rice. And the next bowl of rice he puts in front of him, says, "You are so nice. You are the nourishment of my life. You are the Annamaya consciousness of Krishna. Krishna sent you as prasada so that I can take you as prasada and nurture my body and have a nice Krishna conscious life, and I can progress, use my material body as an instrument to progress in my advancement." He's just glorifying this rice and he's just completely elevating the requirement and the the utility of this bowl of rice. And you know what happened? After 6 weeks, the rice that was cursed the rice was that operated on the tamasic level, started to turn into this putrid soup, smelly, disgusting soup. And this rice, the bowl of rice, which had these glories pronounced at her, utilities glorified, the praises of prasad, and the praise, prasad in the sense not offered to Krishna, but something that has come from God. And this, when he praised it, and it just stayed as it is. 6 weeks. And now, after 8 years, he still has those 2 bowls of rice. One is cursed and one is glorified. This one is still okay. You can't eat it, but it hasn't lost its form. But this rice that has been, bowl of rice that has been cursed, thrown all the tamasic modes on it, putrefied soups, the disgusting putrefied smell. And he shows with that experiment how the intention, how the modes of gunas that we throw every day in our everyday lives, at matter, at our lives, how our life can change into a mode of goodness from a mode of tamas. So the intentions and free will are always operating on the matter. And this can change the way we are operating in this planet, in this world. Now, is this liberating to understand this? Like our intentions and our free will can actually change the way our future is dealt. Change the way, the status of our future existence. Just the way we live now. Just the Krishna consciousness, Krishna conscious life we live now. Just a sattvic life we live now can completely change the way our future existence can be. Is this liberating to know? Isn't this fantastic? So that's what Prabhupada means when he says externally there are invisible forms of sense objects. What he means is the mind, as much as you see a sense object and it looks very juicy, right? You see a bowl of khichdi after you fasted after the whole Ekadashi, next morning you go, you see a bowl of khichdi, and that's little butter smeared over it. Oh, it's getting juicy, like it feels so juicy, right? So, there is a sense object that you feel juicy. For some people, maybe it's opposite gender. Like for male, a woman, or a woman, a male. Some, it could be an opposite gender that makes it like so juicy, so like I want to have it. The point is that when Prabhupada is saying these external sense objects are invisible, he doesn't mean that you don't see a form of a woman or a woman doesn't see a form of a man or you don't see a form of khichdi. What he means is your mind intrinsically already has a sense of these states for these objects. Your mind is already existing in a way that it already has what's called a chinmatra to be able to connect to these sense objects. You already born with a mentality, you're already given, programmed, you already lodged with a chip. You know the Matrix, the movie The Matrix? You're lodged with a chip. And then that chip is operating in a way that you are intrinsically already have this ability to be attracted to the sense object. More than the sense object comes and agitates you, your mind has already possessing the quality of agitation by that sense object. Which is the reason the sense object that agitates me may not agitate you, and the sense object that agitates you may not agitate me. If I see a spicy pakoda, that will agitate me. But maybe Bhakta Ian looks at this spicy Vindaloo pakoda. You love it? Okay, well, let's change the analogy. Okay. I messed up. Okay, I messed up. I messed up. Okay, let's take some other example. I don't know. What's a fruit that you don't like? Chili. Okay, let's take chili. Okay, that's actually a good example. I love chilies. I mean, I don't overeat them. So, a sense object chili agitates me. When I see a nice chili tamarind rice, you lost me. I'll run away from here right now. But the same thing may not agitate you so much. Yeah? Even it works with celebrity models. Like I always used to, when I was at work, I used to hear the staff always speaking about celebrities. One person may say, oh, this celebrity is so hot. But another person may say, yeah? You find him attractive? Really? He's a loser. Don't we do that all the time? For example, Jim Carrey's comedy. I don't mind Jim Carrey's comedy. My wife, as soon as I start Jim, she's gone. She said, oh, he sucks. So why, if sense objects were also objectively real, why do we have these subtle variations? That's because the chinmatras that your mind holds is a different set of chinmatras my mind holds. So the mind has intrinsically born with a categorical appreciation for certain sense objects, which is the reason Prabhupada is saying the external sense objects are invisible. Because if you take it from a logical perspective, from a current modern logical scientific perspective, what Prabhupada is saying there, that the external sense objects are invisible, some materialist philosopher will say that's completely ridiculous. Because sense objects are not invisible. But if you see from this context, that the sense objects are invisible in a way that they are unmanifested on a sleeping stage in your mind. And they only awaken when you are in connection in yoga with the sense objects. Do you see where I'm going? So that's the reason Prabhupada is saying that. And now you might wonder, Radhika Prasad, why so much struggle? Why are we struggling so much trying to understand all these things? Why can't we just get straight to 10th canto and talk about Krishna Leela? Or maybe talk about Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu? Or maybe talk about Rutrasura? Or maybe talk about Chitraketu? Or maybe talk about the Daksha Yagna? That's more dramatic, right? People losing their heads are rolling, noses are being cut, mustaches are flying in the air. Yeah, Bhrigu Maharshi's mustache is being cut. Someone else laughs and his teeth are broken. That's more dramatic. That's a story I want to hear. Tell me about Daksha. Tell me about Dhruva. Tell me about Prahlad Maharaj. Tell me about the Chitraketu story. Talk about Krishna's pastimes. Talk about how Krishna gave Rukmi a half punk haircut. Why are we talking about this? God, the matter, the gunas, the intentionality, the free will. Why? It can get a little frustrating. But we have to listen to Prabhupada carefully. If we go back and hear to Prabhupada carefully, Prabhupada keeps insisting at least 200 times in his literature. Don't go to 10th canto straight. Go through the gradations of Bhagavatam step by step. Why? At least 200 times. If you listen to Prabhupada talks, lectures, classes, books, it will be at least 200 times. Take the Veda-based library, just do a search. He would have said 200 times minimum. Don't go straight to the 10th canto because you have to know the gradations of knowledge. Why? Because he wants to establish that you are a conscious entity, an Atma. First, you understand that you are a conscious entity with an ability to manipulate, with an ability to manipulate the material, the matter in this world with the influence of the three gunas, unless you understand that you are a conscious Atma with the ability to drive your destiny. How are you going to understand Krishna's pastimes, Super Soul's pastimes? It's extremely unrealistic to expect that. So which is the reason we have to get really grounded in the Bhagavad Gita. We have to really get grounded in Sankhya. And then when you move to the Prahlad pastime, then when you see the arguments that Hiranyakashipu is providing to Prahlad, in objection with Prahlad's statements, then you see the signs of consciousness. Then you see you are an Atma and Prahlad Maharaj is fighting for you. Prahlad Maharaj is vigorously fighting on your behalf against this Hiranyakashipu mentality, who are establishing that the matter consciousness is exactly as deterministic as matter. Dhruva Maharaj is vigorously fighting against his father, against the social customs, against the deontological social customs. Narada Rishi is establishing, vigorously fighting against the social customs, vigorous chat with Yudhishthira Maharaj, trying to establish that you are a conscious entity and you are able to drive, you are able to adjust and amend your future in context as a conscious entity, as an Atma, in context with your relationship with Krishna. You can transcend the three modes of gunas, the three modes of material nature. You can overcome that. You can transcend it. He is doing this vigorous battle not with his father. He is battling on behalf of us against a mentality that establishes that you are a deterministic, mechanistic, lack of free will, lack of intentionality, just a mechanistic human being with no Atma. That's what he's doing. So that's what these preliminary stages of Bhagavatam, the third canto, the second canto, the first canto are establishing. First, you establish yourself as Atma, as a conscious entity who has the ability to transcend. Mam chayo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samatitetan. Gunan samatite, transcending the three modes of material nature. Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Then you establish yourself in a Brahman existence. So it is extremely important to go through these gradations. It's very important. Gradations of knowledge. Doesn't make sense. So I'll just quickly summarize what I was talking so far. What I was talking is I was establishing the difference between matter and consciousness. Matter is deterministic and consciousness has works on free will and intentionality. I gave an example of these two bowls of rice. One was operated on the tamasic mode and one was operated on the sattvic mode, and both had completely two different consequences, two different results. So if you can act your intention and free will on a ball of rice, can you imagine what you can do with your whole life? Can you imagine the potential, the possibilities of what you can do with your life? You can actually go back to spiritual world. Does that sound fair or what? Is it just like a reasonable fair offer? You can become an Atma and operate. And you know what? You don't have to die. You don't have to wait for death to go to the spiritual world. I promise you. There is a myth in these religious cultures that they think they have to wait for death to go to the spiritual world. You don't have to. You can actually operate as an Atma now in this world. So that's the potential of this Sankhya philosophy. That's the reason I keep, maybe it may become a little bit of a cliche, That's the reason this Bhagavatam program is an educational program. It's not some kind of subcontinental Hindu thing. It's not. It's a total comprehensive educational program. And what the current modern scientists are telling you, or they're trying to drive you towards, is they're trying to tell you that your consciousness is just as mechanistic and as deterministic and as drivable as any matter. Now, do you really want to accept this? Did I spoke about Daniel Dennett? I was speaking with Meera on the way here in car. Daniel Dennett is one of the 4 pillars of atheism. These 4 pillars of atheism: Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, and Daniel Dennett. These are called the 4 pillars of atheism. And one of them, the most current, is Daniel Dennett. And Daniel Dennett wrote a whole book on what's called what was that, Meera? Multiple drafts model. Isn't it? Multiple drafts model. Getting rusty. Bit rusty. Multiple drafts model. So he's establishing that just the memories are coming and operating in the brain, and just because memories are coming and operating in the brain, he's telling us you don't have to get carried away and lodge some kind of consciousness in your body and show as if some consciousness is some non-material entity that operating in the body, now taking us from the physical paradigm of body, physical paradigm of this material world. So he's established what's called a multiple drafts model, and he's telling us that there's no locus consciousness in your body. But if his move sounds to you like a little incoherent and ridiculous, it is incoherent and ridiculous. And I'll tell you why. Because it doesn't count your intentionality, it doesn't count your free will. Do you want me to give you an example? I was driving from home today to this Srimad Bhagavatam class. Yeah? And I saw a lot of traffic on M2. I'll give some live example to you. I saw traffic there for miles. And I really started worrying. Think, oh God, 7:45 Bhagavatam class and this traffic is looking terrible. God, why didn't I go, start a little early? Because my mind is working still on weekend. And I thought I'll just cruise through. And I started a little late and I'm getting really tensed and I'm thinking, oh God, I got to win by 7:45. I don't want to let everybody down, and I really will. So my mind is saying I have to be at this Bhagavatam class at 7:45. But at the same time, I'm following all the traffic rules, not bumping into the, boots, like bumpers of the cars, maintaining traffic signals, switching lanes, operating very smoothly, and still maintaining coherency, not jeopardizing my daughter's life in the car, not jeopardizing my life in the car, making sure I'm braking at the right speed, making sure although my mind is deterministically pushing that I have to be at this Bhagavatam class at 7:45, but my senses are still operating in a coherent way and still managing the safety and welfare of me as a conscious entity. If I am just a matter, if I am just a soup, a bag of physical elements, at what point am I maintaining this coherency that I have to get to the Bhagavatam class at 7:45 and I don't jeopardize my life by breaking rules, and I'm operating with 25,000 rules of the social life and still maintaining a coherent my safety, welfare? Why am I doing that? How am I doing that? At what point do I become that unified consciousness? That multiple draft model of Daniel Dennett doesn't explain that. That's what I have the problem with. I don't have problem with science, the modern science. But the problem I have with is trying to discount your intentionality, is trying to discount your free will. It's trying to get away completely, right off your operations on the three modes of material nature. That's what I have problem with. Scientists are afraid, the modern current scientists are afraid, because if they take consciousness as primary and matter is not primary, what they're afraid is that they think they have to rewrite the whole library of their books. That's what they're afraid of, which is the reason they don't want to account consciousness as primary. Atma as primary. Do you understand? But they don't actually have to rewrite, it's a myth. They don't actually have to rewrite their books. All they have to do is amend, adjust their conclusions, that maybe there is other element. Maybe there is some other element. Maybe there is some other angle to see these things. That consciousness is primary, Atma is primary. That's all they need to do. But they don't want to do it. Why? Protocols, funds, paradigm shift will start sounding like religion. Religion. You see what I'm saying? They're worried. Oh my God, we don't want to sound like religion. We don't want to sound like some Christians or Hindus. That's what they're worried about. But they could do the exactly same book. They don't have to rewrite the books. Just amend the conclusions. Maybe you didn't get the point. Maybe consciousness was primary. Maybe you're an Atma. And maybe that consciousness is driving this world. And maybe there is a supreme consciousness. Just like I'm driving my life with my consciousness, maybe there is a supreme consciousness that could drive this universe. And maybe that supreme consciousness that existed prior to this universe and that exists after this universe, maybe we as conscious entities can connect to that supreme consciousness that's standing right there, dancing with his flute. Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam, who causes everything. Maybe maybe slight amendment of the conclusion may change the whole trend of this world, may change the whole direction of this world that it's going at the moment. So as Krishna conscious devotees, as spiritual scientists, as Krishna conscious devotees, as people who have got hold of this knowledge, my urge is, this is what gets me up every morning, although it keeps me up in the night. This is what gets me up every morning, is to help change this paradigm, help change this belief system. That there is a supreme consciousness, just as we are a conscious entity that has existed prior and will exist after, and maybe perhaps because of his intentions, because of that Brahman direction, this both spiritual and material worlds are operating on. Without sounding religious, without sounding Hindus. We are not some Hindus, trust me. We are Sanatan Dharma, we are conscious, we are a consciousness movement. That's what we are. So let's add like a little drop every day. Let's get up every morning to add some value to this world. To provide this new paradigm, this new Atma paradigm. Is this okay or I have completely lost you? Like, is it okay? You okay with this? You still with me? Okay, maybe I'll read the rest of the purport. Okay. Okay, the production of the invisible sense objects is the external activity of the ethereal element, and the circulation of vital air and blood is its eternal activity. The subtle forms exist in the ether has been proven by modern science by transmission of television, by which forms or photographs of one place are transmitted to another place by the action of ethereal elements. This is very nicely explained here. This verse is potential basis of great scientific work. Isn't that interesting? Exactly. This verse is the potential basis of great scientific research work. Prabhupada is saying that. So I didn't give you any like esoteric, unreachable, like unpractical, like what do they call it? Impracticable or not practicable. Prabhupada is saying that. So I'm not blowing any smoke around here. He's saying that. This verse is a potential basis of scientific research work, for it explains how subtle forms are generated from the ethereal element, what their characteristics and actions are, and how the tangible element, namely air, fire, water, and earth, are manifested from subtle form. Mental activities or psychological actions of thinking, feeling, and willing are also activities on the platform of ethereal existence. Did you see? Exactly what I'm saying. So it's really science. He's really on the message. This is science. This is science. This is science. Prabhupada is just hitting on the message again and again. This is science. So mental activities and psychological actions of thinking, feeling, and willing are also activities on the platform of ethereal existence. The statement in Bhagavad Gita that mental situation at the time of death is the basis of the next birth is also corroborated in this verse. Mental existence transforms into tangible form. There you go. There you go. Don't kill the messenger. So the statement in Bhagavad Gita, the mental situations at the time of death is the basis of next birth, is also corroborated in this verse. Mental existence transforms into tangible forms as soon as there is an opportunity due to contamination or development of the gross elements from the settled form. So, okay, so that's this hopefully will be the last leg of this class today. But I'll just quickly explain you a couple of things, yeah? Anybody here read the Bhagavad Gita? Thank you. So, in 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there are a couple of verses where Prabhupada is saying that this verse has a potential of great scientific work. I'll relate it to the Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks, a couple of verses Krishna says is Adhishtanam tata karta karanam cha prutak vidam vividashta prutak teshta daivam chaivatra panchadam. He says, Adhishtanam, there is a place of action first, and there is an actor. Number 2. Karanam cha prutak vidam, they are causes of actions. Vividhasta prutak cheshta, and they are actually actions. Daivam chaitra panchadam. So he's saying, finally, the divine intervention, the divine sanction is the action, is the finally potential of the activity. Yeah? He's giving you 5 in 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna gives us 5 factors of operations in this material planet. Yeah? Adhishtanam, the place of action. Tatha karta, the actor. Karanam cha prutak vidam, various causes. Karanam, various causes. Vividhascha prutak cheshta, various actions. Daivam chaivatra panchadam, the divine intervention, the divine sanction. These are the 5 causes. Yeah? And then he says, there's another second verse, he says, Gnanam gneyam parignata trivida karma chodana. Gnanam, the knowledge. Gneyam, the subject of the knowledge, the person that is the knowledgeable person. Parignata, the object of knowledge, and the person that is gaining the knowledge. Trivida karma chodana, these are karma chodana, these are impetus for our actions. Yeah, Gnanam Gnayam Parignana Trivida Karma Choda. Karnam Karma Karteti Trivida Karma Sangraha. So in the causes and the actions and all these karma, these are the confluence of actions. So, where am I going with this? Have you heard of something called a binding problem? Have you heard of something called a binding problem, a representation problem? You never heard of it? Okay. Let me give you a little introduction of this. Krishna talks about this binding problem there's two kinds of binding problems. Yeah? Krishna gives us a little hint of the binding problem in second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He says, Dehi nosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tata dehantara prapti dhirasya tatranam huyati. It's called a binding problem, which means you had a past, you had a present, and you had various levels of your past, but you as a single conscious entity are able to bind all those experiences although you're not present there. The observer is moving along through the phases of your lives and binding all your experience. So this is called a binding problem. Yeah? And the second binding problem is that when you have your five senses, you have your five working senses, you have five eyes, nose, ears, skin, touch, taste and all this. And you have working senses. Here is the problem. The problem is when they are sending the signals to the brain, when these senses are sending to the brain, they are not actually sending at the same speed or frequency to the brain. The senses that come from the ear to the brain are much more delayed than the senses of sight that's going from your eyes to the brain. If I pinch you on the leg here and I pinch you, if I prick you on your face here, the signals are actually delayed to the brain. But regardless where I pinch you, you immediately act. You see something, you hear something, you taste something, you touch something. The signals from the senses that are going to the brain are actually going in delayed velocity, delayed speeds. But now the question is, who is putting all these signals that are coming in various drafts, various delays, into one seamless experience? If I say, Prabhu, that was fantastic what you did. Or I say, Prabhu, that was really fantastic what you did. In both expressions, you noticed a nuance. In the first expression, you saw genuine appreciation. But in the second appreciation, where I rolled my eyes and said, Prabhu, that was fantastic work. You kind of collected some sarcasm there, didn't you? You collected a sarcasm there. Or I say, you are such a good guy. Yeah, right, you are such a nice guy. Did you collect some sarcasm there? So who's putting all these nuances of communications, the nuances of expressions, the delays in signals? Who is putting that in one seamless unified experience? Who is helping that? Correct? And what's behind the intelligence? Correct, yeah, good. Good, yeah, that's a good regression, yes. Where is it going? Your consciousness. So when you regress back, who is actually putting this seamless, these various thousands of collections of memories, bombardments of senses signals. You're getting bombarded. You want to listen to, you just want to go and on Facebook and listen to a class, right? That's what you want to do, some kirtan. And all of a sudden you bombarded with this celebrity. Just, wow! You're getting bombarded in your senses all the time. All you want to do is listen to some happy kirtan, right? What is this? YouTube, you just want to hear something on YouTube lecture, right? Boom, a break. And this bombardment. You have to go to your mortgage broker, check your interest rates, see this movie, it's classic, buy this car. Fantastic. See this, look at this celebrity. Look at the curves and the structures, how beautiful she is. Look at her when how beautiful she was in 90s, and look at her when she's still here. And you're thinking, I just want to hear the lecture. Right? So when you're getting bombarded with these senses, who is managing all this into a seamless experience? You have to come back to your Atma. You have to come back yourself as a conscious entity, and that is the only way we can begin. Otherwise the whole thing is incoherent. Otherwise the whole thing becomes incoherent. That's the only way you can maintain coherency. So I was hearing a debate between Akhandadi Prabhu and Tom Jump. Anybody knows Tom Jump? Tom Jump, just like the name sounds, he jumps a lot. So he jumps a lot of philosophical hoops, and he doesn't realize he's doing that. So he's got an appropriate name. He jumps a lot of philosophical hurdles and doesn't deal with things. It was a really appropriate name for him. And Akhandadi Prabhu is explaining, after they spoke for more than an hour of all the consciousness problems, all the sign like material, like these intention problems, these free will problems, Akhandadi Prabhu said, so what is the problem by introducing consciousness or Brahman into this? And maybe there is a better answer, and you have a better kind of structure to your knowledge. And Tom Jim says, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to bring some external Atma or Brahman into this? That is unrealistic. And I said to Akhandadi Prabhu, because we always speaking, and I said to him, wait. He's objecting that we are bringing some unknown for him, an unknown, incomprehensible Atma into this material scientific paradigm. I said to him, wait a minute, you are doing exactly the same. As a modern scientist, you're doing exactly the same. What you're doing, you're bringing something called a natural choice and chance mutation, which is as mystical, if not more magical, than just lodging an Atma. A natural selection, survival of the fittest, and chance mutations is exactly as magical as if you bring Atma. They say you're bringing Atma and you're making it all sound magical. Right? We don't want magic in science. Excuse me, the natural selections, the chance mutations, and the survival of the fittest is as magical as the Atma paradigm. When did you see a dolphin change into a giraffe? Have you ever seen, you swim? You like a swim in Bondi Beach now and then? And now and then on the north coast? One time I was swimming in Forster with Meera and I. We like to go for a swim around the island in Forster. All of a sudden there's these dolphins dancing around us. This dolphin dancing around everywhere. Like one here, missing. So you're saying that if I just watch the dolphin long enough, it'll become a giraffe because of survival techniques? Like how magical and stupid is that? I mean, seriously. Did Darwin really watch a dolphin turn into a giraffe? I mean, seriously. It's ridiculous. Isn't it? So we really need to work on this. We really need to work on this. As now that we've received this knowledge, now that we received this Bhagavatam, now that we received this Krishna consciousness, now that we received this Vedanta, now that we received Sankhya, we have the onus to help this planet. We have the onus, not in a fanatical way, not coming across like some Hindu, subcontinental Hindu people, banging kartals in their ears and hoping for some Agnata Sukruti. Agnata Sukruti is supposed to be a concession. Agnata Sukruti is not a principle. Please understand. Please understand. Agnata Sukruti is not a principle. Agnata Sukruti is a concession. We cannot run a whole movement, we cannot build a whole movement out of Agnata Sukruti. I banged a kartal in his ear, I blew a Hare Krishna mantra in his ear on the street, that's it. I'll push him to the spiritual world without knowing him. Voila! Where are you? I'm in the spiritual world. How? Because someone blew Hare Krishna mantra in my ear. Agnata Sukruti. Agnata Sukruti is a concession. Agnata Sukruti is not a principle. You cannot make a whole movement out of Agnata Sukruti. It's a concession. If you lived a whole life as a Bhakti Yoga and you had an accident and you had a fall down, Agnata Sukruti is a concession. Ajamila story is all about a perfect yogi who lived a first-class brahmachari life, who was engaged for a first-class grihastha life, falls down and he gets Agnata Sukruti by a memory of his previous brahmachari Krishna conscious life. It was a concession provided. You cannot build a whole movement out of Agnata Sukruti. It doesn't work like that. We have to reason, we have to rational, we have to talk to people on a normal platform, we have to understand their hearts. What are they suffering with? Can I help you? What is your struggle? Is there something I can add and help you? That's how a movement is built. A movement is not built by telling people, by showing people something they completely don't understand. I gave you Agnata Sukruti, that's it. No, it doesn't work like that. So I'm repeating this the third time now. Agnata Sukruti is a concession for a yogi. We cannot build and construct and make a whole movement out of an Agnata Sukruti. It doesn't work like that. It's irrational. Please understand. Please understand. So talk to people. We need to become gentlemen. I was talking to some relatives yesterday who were having kind of a social talk with me yesterday about the marriages and all that, and their weddings and all that, in how things work in families and all that. And they asked me that some people that they met and they're very religious people. And I said, don't make a match or don't make a wedding relationships. Don't make family relationships based on if they're just religious or not. If they're not, like, no, are they is that a gentleman? Is he a gentleman? Is she a gentle lady? Do they represent God's love? Do you represent God's love? When someone sees you, can they get even an inkling that you're representing God's love, God's affection? That's what Sankirtan movement is. This is Prema Sankirtan. This is Prema Sankirtan. It's not how rhythm your beats are. It's good if you have good rhythms, if you have good beats, it helps. But this is Prema Sankirtan. Even if you have claps. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is Prema Sankirtan. How are you reaching out to people with prema? You get knowledge, but you don't get, with the knowledge doesn't make you, hubris. You know what do they say, Australians? The slang in Australia, you say, cocky. Yeah, you're cocky. Do they say in England? They use that. Even in America, it's a slang. It's not about getting cocky. Our religion is great, or our religion is the best. We are the best. No, that's love. It's Prema Sankirtan. Reach out to people with love. Give them time. Talk to them. Understand their problems. Be a gentleman. This is science. But the science doesn't make us cocky. The science makes us lovable, loving, respectful, respecting. And establishing a Prema Sankirtana movement. Otherwise, there's no need for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come and express the divine love of Radha. As if there's not enough room in the spiritual world to do that. Like seriously, if Krishna wanted to understand Radha's love or express Radha's love, isn't there enough room in the spiritual world? Why would he have to come here? Like to this middle class lower planet? Because to establish a Prema Sankirtana movement, not some kind of cocky religious movement. No, that's not what. Yeah. So please understand, we have to reach, we have to knock every door of every single heart. Don't leave any stone unturned. Every person you meet, they should see the love of Krishna representing in you. The love of Radharani, the mercy of Radharani representing in you. That's why I'm eternally grateful for my spiritual master, that he named me Radhika Prasad, which means the mercy of Radharani. So he knew I'm such a fool. He knew that I'm such an idiot. He knew that I could get carried away with my cocky knowledge. And he said, become a resemblance of Radha's mercy. And he named me Radhika Prasad. So everybody has similar beautiful names like this. And we have to, because when we initiated, why do we get these names? Everybody has these beautiful names. Mine Radhika Prasad, and someone else has some other beautiful name. Rasananda Prabhu, or Rasika Manjari Mataji, or something like that. Why do we get all these beautiful names? So that we can represent that prema, Krishna's love. That's what we are here to do. So, are you happy to represent this Prema Sankirtana movement? Anybody has show of hands here? Thanks very much. Any questions? Any questions, comments, corrections? Anything? Please. Variety? Ah, very nice. Very nice question. Actually, seriously, that's very class. I like you, Ian. The reason is because the way this works, so the question, I'll repeat the question. He's saying, why so much variety and why are we so different? The reason is because God likes relationships. God is not some, dumb kind of, deity in the spiritual world. Everybody goes in like Baal worship. No, it's not like that. He loves relationships. And when there are relationships brings a particular rasa, particular... I couldn't give a same friendship to Meera that you could offer. She will always see a different angle in your friendship to her than my friendship to her, or vice versa. Same way, you will not be able to provide, I will not be able to provide you exactly the same rasa that some other devotee would provide. So God likes variety of relationships, variety of rasas. And we are qualitatively one with God and different with God, in the sense that we are the finite expressions of these rasas that we can provide God. That is the yoga. There is this God, primeval aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate, and there is this finite expressions of God individually, and we give different tastes of relationships to Him. And when all the conscious living entities are providing these different tastes of relationships with God and the single God, then we are united with Him in same quality, and we become qualitatively one with God. But because of our different rasas and mellows, we are different from God. And that's the whole point of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti, bhajati. So both God and we are reciprocating. God actually serves Arjuna more than Arjuna serves Krishna. Did you know? Did you see that in Mahabharata? Krishna served Arjuna more than Arjuna served Krishna. If you read carefully. So that's what the variety of all these conscious living entities brings, is the taste of relationships. And God serves the living entity more than the living entity serves God. It is always the case. It is always the case. Read any Shastra. Read Mahabharata. Krishna served Arjuna more than Arjuna served Krishna. Have you ever... Just pay attention. Pay attention to the Mahabharata. Pay attention to the Bhagavad. You will always notice that God is serving devotees more than devotees are serving God. I guarantee you. I bet my bottom dollar in my wallet. I don't know if I have any today. So, that's the relation, that's the variety. He loves to have variety of relationships. And He loves to serve variety of relationships. Once you know Krishna, you don't want to know any other God. Why? Because He serves you more than you serve Him back. He'll always beat you in His humbleness. He'll always beat you in how much you serve Him. You serve Him 10, He serves you back 20. You serve Him 100, He serves you back 200. Would you want any other God than Krishna? If this is the investment, do you want any other God than Krishna? Do you know what I'm saying? So once you know Krishna, I mean, today the deities are just looking so beautiful. It is so beautiful. I mean, really, my dandavats to whoever did the decoration, dress the deities today. So God serves you more. God likes to serve more than you serve Him back, which is the reason God has so many varieties. That's how the spiritual mechanics works. Isn't this liberating to know? Isn't this liberating to know? That you go to a spiritual world where God will always be ambitious and desiring to serve you more than you serve Him. Isn't this liberating to know? Come on, tell me the truth. Isn't this liberating? Now when you understand this, aren't you already in spiritual world? Do you have to wait for death? When you understand this correctly, when it sinks in your heart, do you have to wait for death anymore? Aren't you already in a spiritual world? Aren't you already in a relationship with Krishna? Do you see what I'm saying? So please take this Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita to your hearts. Make it our life and soul, and make sure before we die, we haven't left any stone unturned. When I'm dying, I want to make sure that I am out there trying to tell one more glory of Krishna to someone on the streets. I pray to God every day that when my death comes, let it come on the street with a 15-kilo bag of books. And let my death come when I'm telling one more person, one more glory of you. Please give me that kind of death. Don't let me die in a hospital. I pray to Him every single day. Don't let me die in between my family members. Let me die with a bag of books on a street, telling one more glory of Krishna to some completely random person. Nitai Gaur Premanande. I really want to sincerely acknowledge my gratitude for you being here today. And the day I take you for granted is the day I'll consider myself dead. I'm really grateful that you're here, and I congratulate that you're here. And I promise I'll never take you for granted. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namaha. Srimad Bhagavad Mahagranth ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Okay, how does this work? Just switch this off here. Were you able to hear what I was saying? Was it clear? Audible? Okay, I better turn this off.